Okay, last time we were talking about government support for the arts. Who can sum up some of the main points? Frank? Well, I guess there was really any, official government support for the arts until the 20th century. But the first attempt the United States government made to support the arts was the Federal Art Project. Right. So what can you say about the project? It was started during the Depression in the 1930s to employ out of work artists. So was it successful, Janet? What do you say? Successful. Janet, what do you say? Yeah, sure, it was successful. I mean, for one thing, the project established a lot of like community art center, and galleries and places like rural areas where people hadn't really had access to the arts, to the arts, right? Yeah, but didn't the government end up was wasting a lot of money for arts that wasn't even very good? Some people might say that, but wasn't the primary objective of the federal art project to provide a job? That's true. I mean, it did provide jobs for thousands of unemployed artists, right? But then, when the United States became involved in the Second World War, unemployment was down, and it seems that these programs weren't really necessary. Necessary. Necessary any longer. So moving on, we don't actually see any real government involvement in the art again until the early 1960s, when President Kennedy and other politicians started to push for major funding, funding to support and promote the arts. It was felt by a number of politicians that the government had a responsibility to support the arts as sort of what can we say, the soul or spirit of the country. The idea was that there be a federal subsidy, federal subsidy, financial assistance to artists or cultural institutions. And for just those reasons, in 1965, the National Endowment for the Art was created. So it was through the NEA's National Endowment for the Art that the art would be developed, would be promoted throughout the nation. And then individual states throughout the country started to establish their own state art councils to help support the arts. There was kind of cultural explosion by the mid 1970s. By 1978, four I think, all 50 states had their own art agencies, their own state art councils that work with the federal government, with the corporations, artists, performances, you name it. Did you just say corporations? How were they involved? Well, you see. And corporations aren't always altruistic. They might not support the art unless the government makes it attractive for them to do so by offering corporations tax incentives to support the arts. That is, by letting corporations pay less in taxes if they were patrons of the arts. The Kennedy Center in Washington D.C. Maybe you've been there, or Lincoln Center in New York. Both of these were built with substantial financial substantial financial support from corporations. The Kennedy and Lincoln Centers aren't the only examples. Many of your cultural establishments in the United States will have a plaque somewhere acknowledging with support the money they received from whatever corporation. Oh, yes, Janet. But aren't there a lot of people who don't think it's the government's role to support the arts? Well, as a matter of fact, a lot of politicians who did not believe in government support for the arts, they wanted to do away with the agency entirely for that very reason, to get rid of government support. But they only succeeded in taking away about half the annual budget. And as far as the public goes, well, there are about as many individuals who disagree with the government support as there are those who agree. In fact, with artists in particular, you have lots of artists who support and who have who have benefited from this agency, although it seems that just as many artists support the government agency being involved in the arts for many different reasons. Reasons like they don't want the government to control what they create. In other words, the arguments both for and against government funding of the arts are as many and as varied as the individual styles of the artists who hold them.